But when you go to the eye doctor, they put these lenses in front of you and they start asking you this very simple question. They flip it around and they go, better one or better two? Better one or better two? And they keep flipping these lenses. And what happens is as they do this and you keep answering this very simple question, your vision starts to come into focus. You gain clarity. And at the end of this exercise, what do you have? You have the right prescription. You can see clearly. I just started asking myself that question every day and everything started to change. Should I work out today or blow it off? Better one or better two? Should I eat the better, healthier meal, the chicken and the vegetables, whatever? Or should I hit the drive-thru? Should I go out after work and go drinking with these guys? Or should I make it to my kid's game? Better one or better two? I just started asking this question of myself day in and day out. And when I started to actually make the better choice, 10%, 20%, 30%, and really get it up there, that's when everything started to change.
Greg, my brother, welcome to the Superhuman Life.
Hey, it's great to be here. It's good to see you, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, brother. I've been looking forward to this conversation and really been diving into your work, man. And I love what you're all about with the Midlife Male. Obviously, your coaching, your podcast, which we'll have an upcoming episode with the two of us on there together. You know, one of the things you shared with me when we spoke is, you know, guys that are in their 30s that are 60, and you know, guys that are 60 that are in their 30s. So where I think it'd be a good place to start here today, Greg, is what is midlife and why does midlife always seem to have like a negative connotation attached to it?
Yeah, it's such a great question, Frank. I mean, if we played literally this word association game with almost anybody out there, and you go, okay, I say midlife, and you say, and they go, crisis. And it just invariably, the word crisis tends to follow midlife. And I think there's been this kind of stigma, stereotype, and unfortunately, statistical reality that midlife is this period of crisis, this uncertainty, this period of conformity and complacency. I think we just passed Groundhog Day again, you know, redundancy, you know, those types of things that a belief and an inherent kind of almost operating system for men and women that the middle is the beginning of the end, that our best days are behind us. You know? And I don't believe that to be true. I think that while statistically speaking, right now, we have an opportunity to live longer and better and healthier than ever before, so we can push the middle out farther. At the same time, like midlife is being considered 37 years old.
Is that
Based on
really what the number is? 37?
according to like Men's Health magazine and a few other publications, they're putting out stats that midlife is like 37, 38. I mean, it's sub 40 now. It used to feel like 40 was the big one, you know, in terms of getting into midlife. And now it's below 40 based upon this life expectancy of 76 for unhealthy, if you will, you know, midlife men that are not making the most of their time and their health. Where I was going by this is, and I said, you know, look, I get asked this question all the time, and I do answer it now. Like, I think it's more than just a number. As I said, I know some really young, some really young 60-year-olds and some really old, 30-year-olds. And you look at guys, I think it's more of a mindset. I think it's more about the way that you are really living and engaging and learning that kind of vitality. And whether you lose it young, you can still get it back, or are you really seeing your best days ahead of you and thriving and prospering in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond? And I think that's really where the interesting conversation is.
Absolutely, man. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of men that I've had here on the show, experts, like leaders, just guys that are out there just crushing it, doing similar work to what you're doing. But these guys are in their 70s, and like in these conversations, it's like I feel like I'm talking to somebody that's at my same bandwidth. And it's like, man, if they're doing it, that shows me that anybody can be done. There's a very specific word that I heard you talk about when you're talking about the 37-year-old. You said an unhealthy 37-year-old. So curious with you with this mindset, right? Because you said you kind of ended it there with midlife is really more of a mindset. What is driving this mindset? Where is it coming from? And yeah, we'll kind of kick it off there.
I think it's a great question. I mean, when I even think about the word unhealthy, I think, again, most people tend to think they go immediately to the physical. Like, okay, that health is physical. But we've discussed this even at length now when you were on my show. when you talk about health or either being healthy or unhealthy, it's really look, it's not just physical, but it's emotional and financial and spiritual. It's all of those other, it's all of those other areas, and again, what does success really look like? Success, wealth, health in there. And I think for a lot of guys, it has been defined as this salary and title, this achievement, as a man, when it really is much more about total life wellness. I think a lot of these guys that have fallen into that proverbial midlife crisis, that have let themselves get unhealthy and say early, they have fallen into what I call this over indexing trap, where they've really kind of gone down this rabbit hole again of chasing money, chasing success, which typically comes along, money, title, which comes along with drinking, along with some of the things that you do, women, you know, all they're not really paying attention again to their spouses, their partners, their children. They're just going after this, going through the motions, going hard in the paint, and then they look up 5, 10, 15, 20 years have gone by and the relationships are not what they thought they were going to be. They're not necessarily where they thought they were going to be. If they've reached the top of the mountain financially, they look around and go, I'm kind of lonely, up here. Maybe their relationship with their kids isn't where it should have been. They're closer to dying at their desk than they are at making those little league games and other things. And there's become this disconnect in who they thought they were going to be and who they really are and what they're doing day in and day out, and it's real confusing, and that can be really demoralizing and debilitating and paralyzing, for a lot of guys.
As you're talking here, Greg, I'm almost envisioning two different types of men that fall into a midlife crisis, right? Like we're going to use that word until the end when we have something better to define it as. But I'm hearing you talk about this success chaser, right? This guy that from like the time that he was in school, it's like, here's your path, right? University, get the corporate financial job, put 25 years in. By the time you're 45, 50, you got a couple million in the bank. Then you go out and you buy the Corvette, you buy the boat, you buy the things and this and that. And now you're living the youth that you never experienced because from the time that you were 15, it was like balls down. One type of guy, right? The guy that achieved success, got to the top of the mountain and realized like I missed out on the youthfulness of my life. Now he tries to bring it to the surface. That's one type of guy that I'm envisioning. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm envisioning a second type of guy that never caught his stride, that just kind of blindly walked through life, right? Took the corporate job like 9 to 5. It's like got married early because that's what he felt he was supposed to do, began to live for others. Incredible man, has respect, honor, integrity. But now he reaches his life and he's like, I've been living for everybody else for 20 years. I never made all the money. So now this guy walks away from his marriage. Now this guy's trying to date the 20-year-old. So am I landing on something that
Oh,
you've seen
you're
out there in the
nailing
world?
that.
And
You're perfectly nailing the archetypes. And the stereotypes are true because look, stereotypes are developed for a reason. And you're describing really what's out there. And I have been, check the box, man, all of the above, in there.
well, let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about your journey then, because I know that in unpacking your journey, we're going to kind of get to the root of some of these things and why this has become such a passionate thing for you.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with a lot of, well, even what guys like us do is we kind of go through our own journey. It really is, it's authenticity. Who we really are starts to come out, what we've learned over time or experienced. You start to bring it out and wear it as a badge of honor, and be able to kind of, who can I serve and how can I help? Because now I've kind of been through all of this stuff. And you get to a point where it's like, let's not hide this. Let's talk about this. Let's own this. Like you can't make fun of the fact that I'm bald because I'm the first one that's going to take off my hat and show you that I'm bald. Like we got to own whatever our stuff is, out there. Um, and I say this a lot that I'm a slow learner and a late bloomer in these regards. In one hand, I grew up very, very quickly. I grew up on the North Shore of Long Island in New York. We were in a very upscale, we were a very privileged environment,
Is
community.
that Gold Coast?
Yeah, they call that, yeah, the whole Gatsby area, North Shore of Long Island over there. And didn't have to deal with any hardship for a long period of my life early on. There was nowhere to go but down in a way. If you looked around, like, okay. And my father got sick in his mid 40s, about 45. And at the time they said he'd had about 6 months to live. He got cancer. He was a big smoker and got cancer. And Fortunately, he hung on for a couple of years, but at 47, he passed away. And I was 17 at the time. And when you go from not experiencing any hardship and being super close to your dad to losing him, people didn't really know how to relate, even in our community. I didn't know how to relate. Two younger brothers, my mother was there. Everything changed at that point. And you can go in a couple of directions. You can say, this is what happened to him, and you can get health. I'm gonna live healthier. I'm gonna live better. I'm gonna, or you can spiral out of control. I'm going to live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. In there, I don't have as much to live for anymore. When you lose the mentorship, the father figure. And that was the direction I chose to go first. While, yes, on one hand, you work, okay? You go after the money because we had it. You go after salary, you go after title, you go after, on the other hand, like it comes along with, again, living fast and drinking and going into this and going out on and not really caring what happens on the other side. And that game I played for a while. And family wise, it took a toll. Father passed away. One of my other brothers ended up going to prison, for a while. I had my demons and chased them for a while. And even on the outside looking in, things looked pretty good though. I was making good money. I was in the entertainment industry, for a while and doing well. I was but inside, and underneath, it was a shit show. It was an absolute disaster. And it was not until I got into my 30s, got married, moved out and away from the New York, Miami, LA stuff. Mhm. Credit to my wife. We had children. We live down in Houston, Texas now. It's been over 20 years for us down here. But it wasn't really into that, mid 30s even, where I started to think about regaining my health. Stop drinking, get back into the gym, thinking that, wait a minute, like 47, I make it to 47, beyond 47 is going to be bonus time, Frank. Like, what can I do now? And started really thinking about how to change the metric for what success looked like. From that salary and title, from those over indexing traps, from doing it quote unquote wrong to what does doing it right look like? What does, you know, total life wellness look like? And that's really where all this stuff started to happen for me. It became more about what I call my 6 F's: family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun. Like, what do I really like? What's really important to me? And how do I design an operating system around that? And just starting to make better choices. When you really break it down, it's like, I tell this story now and about, I don't know how your vision is, but I grew up with really bad vision also. Like, I can't see. Like, glasses, contact lenses, like the whole, like, I couldn't tell who you were, if you were 5 feet away from me without my glasses or contacts, growing up. And then for my 30th birthday, my wife bought me LASIK. She said, I'll buy you a watch or I'll buy you LASIK. I said, I'm going to go with the gift of sight. Okay. Because I can't see the freaking watch anyway, So let's go with the gift of sight. But when you go to the eye doctor frequently all the time, they put these lenses in front of you and they start asking you this very simple question. They flip it around and they go, better one or better two? Better one or better two? And they keep flipping these lenses. And what happens is, as they do this and you keep answering this very simple question, better one or better two, your vision starts to come into focus. You gain clarity. And at the end of this exercise, what do you have? You have the right prescription. You can see clearly, like the song. You can read everything. You can see everything. I just started asking myself that question every day, and everything started to change. Should I work out today or blow it off? Better one or better two? Should I eat the grilled, the better, healthier meal, the chicken and the vegetables, whatever, or should I hit the drive-through? Should I go out after work and go drinking with these guys, or should I make it to my kid's game? Better one or better two? Save a dollar, spend a dollar. Like, and I just started asking this question of myself day in and day out. And when I started to actually make the better choice, the majority of the time, 10%, 20%, 30%, really get it up there. That's when everything started to change from that degree of consistency, accountability, and just making better choices. So it's possible. I tell you, it's not only possible, but it is highly probable for you to have everything you want in your life if you are willing to put in the work and simply make better choices each day and repeat them. Not perfection, But you're like 70, 80, you go to the Hall of Fame. We're talking about baseball before. You go to the Hall of Fame, you hit bat 300. It's not about perfection. It's about the marathon. It's about the long game. Can you make more frequently, consistently better choices each day? And it's amazing what happens to you.
I love the analogy with the vision testing there. And it's like a choice can only be a better choice if it's aligned with a future desired end state, right? So it all starts with having a vision of the man that you want to become. How do you get out of a midlife crisis and vision a life that's not struggling with a midlife crisis? How do you break free from a porn addiction? Start by getting clear on what your life without pornography in it looks like first. That becomes the guiding post, right? That becomes the North Star aim that you then make every daily choice and conscious decision based off of where it is that I'm trying to go. So I love that. I mean, that literally is the ethos of everything that we talk about in our entire coaching program. It
And I
all
think it's
starts with a
so
vision.
good you call it a vision. The book that I read that changed the game for me was a book called Vivid Vision by a guy named Cameron Herold.
Cameron Harold. Yeah, I know
Okay?
Cameron really, really well.
Amazing book. So I went to see Cameron. My friend Justin took me to an EO, an entrepreneurs organization event that Cameron Herold was
The
speaking.
COO Alliance.
Okay. And Cameron gets up there and is speaking, and he's talking about vivid vision. And I'm just like, boom, like that's the mic drop moment. And I got the book, read the book, basically committed the book to memory, and went on this task of I'm gonna write my vivid vision. And what I now call, my map. In my program, it's, if you don't know where you're going, you're never gonna get there. That's rule number two. So you need a map. What I call now a maximized action plan is basically Cameron Herold's vivid vision. Going out 3 years, you talk about the outcome. What do I want my life to look like, to be like, to feel like? Go out 3 years and then reverse engineer back. Okay. Quarterly, monthly, weekly, right down to the daily positive action steps that are one or better two that you need to do in order to live your message and be yourself. So we prioritize. The outcome is amazing. You see the outcome, you have the vivid vision, you have the maximized action plan. However, I'd offer action is greater than outcome. As long as you take those actions day in and day out, the outcome's going to happen. If you just fixate on the outcome, it's not going to happen by default. It only happens by design. You got to take the action. So I try to emphasize the action. How do we break it down? How do we keep it simple? How do you do, for me, 3 personal things, 3 professional things a day? No more, no less. Like what's the bite of the apple that you can take? Again, be consistent. Some guys run a 6-minute mile, some guys run a 9-minute mile. The key is you're still running. You're gonna get there. The only way you don't get there is if you stop. I might get there first. Who the fuck cares? We're not in competition. Keep running. Keep going.
On this vision piece, I love this. I love this so much, Greg. I was at an event probably, God, this might be 3.5 years ago now. Like I've heard this vision talk. I've written so many plans and things for my life, right? You attend a course, you read a book, whatever. It's like, here's a vision for life. Here's a vision for life. Then you wake up 12 months later. And it's like the vision looks the same. My life looks the same because I didn't do anything with it. I remember specifically the event that I was in Toronto. God, it would have been July of 2017. We wrote the vision. And then we literally did the action step to like, okay, now what is the one thing I have to do today that's going to begin the forward progress? It's like most people get clear on the goal, right? It's like the New Year's resolution. It's like, and then they write it once and then they throw it in the closet and they never look at it. You bring it down to like, you got to take an actionable step right now. And I love that so much. But I want to ask you a question, Greg, around this vision piece, right? If we got clear that most of the men that come into your world aren't living out of their vision, the guys that come to us, like we have to help them create a vision for their own life. So if guys aren't living their vision, whose vision is most men living?
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, I don't know if they truly know either. That's that's unfortunately one of the things that I see and I hear most frequently from guys. They're not really sure how they even got where they are. They just know, like, hey, what if you're not in a failed marriage? What if you don't, aren't struggling financially? What if not, and something's still missing? Mhm. Now you're really like, okay, it's that rudderless again, conformity, complacency situation. And you're not totally sure how you got there, but you followed this path. the path of let's say societal norms. Again, you go to college, you get a degree, then you get a job, then you get married, then you try to get promoted, then you're supposed to max out your 401k, and then you're supposed to get up and get dressed and do it again and again. And it's okay if you miss some of the games because these are your prime earning years and that's what you're supposed to do. And then public school turns into private school where I am, and then private school turns into two cars in the driveway and the house. And this shit just keeps perpetuating, perpetuating, perpetuating. And yeah, a lot of things are growing. Your bank account might be growing, but so are your expenses and so is your overhead. So is your stress and so is your anxiety and so is your waistline. Okay. At the same time, your wife's probably shrinking. She's getting in better shape. She's doing everything else because she's using your money. Like all the things that we hear about. And then your kids are getting older and you can't replace all of that time. So I don't think there's any one thing that you can go, that's what it is. I think it's different for all of us. But at the same time, I think the steps to get out of it, the action steps to get out of it are universal, that anyone at any age or any stage or gender even can follow. Now, how we get there is very individual. And I don't know what's going on in your house anymore than you really know what's going on in my house. You know, we don't know what's going on underwater. There's always stuff that we're not seeing in there. But whatever it is that you are dealing with, however you did get there, the opportunity, the possibility, and the probability and the hope to change it, that exists. That's universal. If you can start to identify a few things, one of them, to the point of your question, is we start with rule number one: knowing what's important is what's most important. When's the last time you sat down and really, really thought about that? If you tell me your family's the most important thing to you, and I go, show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities. You open your calendar, okay, and they're not there. How can that really be? Again, rule number two, you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Show me your map, show me your vision, which has to include what's also most important to you. There's so much sensory overload and so many things out there right now, too. That brings us to rule number three: aggregate, curate, eliminate. Take everything that's out there, curate it down to what works for you, and eliminate the rest. Like, we're following so much shit and so many people. And as you said, all these courses and all these books and all this stuff that we can do, that's just like paralysis by analysis. You're not doing it. All you're doing is studying and reading, and you're listening to Sean's plan, and you're buying the hat, and you're on my hat, and you're in this job, and you got 20,000 plans, and now you're out $5,000, but you haven't executed on a single thing that's made you better.
Well, yeah, because you got the dopamine, right? For going through the course, you got the dopamine for maybe talking about the goals, and it's like, well, I feel good because I talked about it. So it's like, why would I actually take the next step? Because it's in taking a step that things get difficult, and it's like you got to lean into some fear and some discomfort there.
Well, I'm busy, I'm not productive, or I'm mistaking productivity, okay, which when it's really busyness. I'm taking action. No, you're busy, okay? Or you've got expenses, not investments. You bought this course, you bought this book, you're on this call, okay, but you're not really invested in doing the real work to get the progress, to get closer towards that outcome, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I want to take a slight pivot here. I obviously want to get to what can a guy do if he's reached this point. So our audience is probably segmented. We probably have half of the audience that is 25 to 40, so they're kind of pre midlife. So I want to start there. What can a young man do, if he's in his 25, like to 30 right now, like in planning and designing his life? What are some steps that he should be taking? What are the things that he needs to be focusing on in his late 20s, in his early 30s to prevent him from hitting that 37, 40, 45 and waking up being like, oh shit, I'm at the midlife crisis point. So let's talk to the younger men first in terms of taking proactive steps to keep them out of it.
Yeah, it's so good. And one thing, I'm glad you touched here, because one thing that I am seeing and hearing is from a lot of the younger guys, frankly, guys that are in their 30s, okay, that are far more proactive in terms of wanting to see what's around the bend. Exactly your point. I want to avoid it. How do I get out in front of it? How do I see what's around the bend? How do I avoid the midlife crisis? I've seen it, whether it's whether it's a parent, whether it's a boss, whether it's whatever. And that's not for me. So like kudos to those guys who are thinking ahead like that, because I also think generationally, there's a greater willingness and understanding and comfort with being a little bit more vulnerable, talking about these things. And that really, That really helps. Being willing to just ask for help. That right there. Being willing to ask somebody for help or from it for advice who's got experience, that looks like somebody whose life you may want to emulate. That you can see yourself maybe in that guy, in that person, in that lifestyle, and ask. And more often than not, and guys to be very receptive, especially successful guys, to be very receptive to giving help and being of service. And you know what they talk to you about the most? They talk to you about where they've made mistakes. They talk to you about their shortcomings. They talk to you about their failures, because that stuff's way more interesting than, quite frankly, just the success. Because anybody who's really successful realizes also how much went into that success. Like we see again the outcome. What's much more interesting? What went into the outcome? Guess what? I may look like a 10-year overnight success. Let me tell you about the last 9 years and 364 days of absolute like hell that I went through. And what that's like. So to those younger guys out there, I would encourage them, start to work on developing your personal operating system. Computers
Define
have
that.
them. Yeah, computers have them. Businesses have them. I talk a lot about running your life like you run your business. For a lot of years, I thought that the way to do it was to fly by the seat of your pants, you could be casual. That was what was fun. Don't really make a whole plan. Go out and have fun and do what you want when you want and live that way. What I realized is that, again, it's the opposite. You need discipline. You need accountability. You need structure. You need an operating system. That's where all the freedom really comes from. That's where that really comes from. So I'd say develop a personal operating system. Again, you can follow the 5 steps that I have, and that'll help you also get there. For me, I started to look at, again, success is not just salary and title. It became my 6 Fs: the family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun. You can determine, again, what yours might be. But then I went back, and within that vivid vision that we talked about, that plan, what do I put on my body? What do I put in my body? What does my daily schedule start to look like? When you get into finance, how much is enough to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want? Create quantifiable metrics around this stuff. Because then, like, when you wake up, I check my calendar. The last thing I do before I go to bed is check my calendar. The first thing I do when I wake up is check my calendar. Have a system. Know what the 3 things you're going to do every day. 3 personal, 3 professional. Like, write stuff down. None of these things I did for like the first 30 years of my life. And when I started doing it, these habits are hard to develop. Again, they're simple in context. They're hard to develop and they're hard to maintain. That's where the energy has to go. Can I be consistent and not break the chain on these things? Can I make it simple, quantifiable? But develop your personal operating system. I'd say it's certainly the younger guys because, hey, then you go to 2.0. What do we do? Computers upgrade. Business plans upgrade. Go to 2.0. Go to 2.1. We're going to keep like the framework of the system, man. Now you can upgrade off of that. When you get into your 40s, now I'm in my 50s. So things are starting to look a little different. We're a couple years away from being empty nesters. People are like, hey, what's going on with this speaking stuff that you're doing now, Greg? Okay, well, by design, in my 3-year plan, I'm 2 years away from being an empty nester. Kate and I can go on the road. I can speak anytime I want. I'm not going to miss a game, not going to miss, taking my son to school. So we're thinking of planning ahead. Back 5 years, 10 years, it was a similar system, but it was different based upon the inputs and the outputs and the obligations and responsibilities. Maybe you're not in competition level shape. You're a competitive bodybuilder, but that's not the most important thing. Maybe right here, right now. Now, maybe you want to get it back. Maybe there's a right time to do that because of the age or stage of your kids, your relationships, or your business. But it's about playing around with this operating system and defining it and designing it so that it works for you. And it's with this notion that you end up with a balanced life portfolio. You don't want all your investments in one thing. You don't want all your eggs in one basket like the stereotype. You want to look at, again, what does a balanced life portfolio look like that not only returns on your investment, but delivers the ROL, the return on life that you're looking for? Because it's all connected, man.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I see it
No,
anyway.
brother, I love it so much, man. I mean, we're literally operating on the same bandwidth here. I mean, the audience is just like probably nodding, like Frank just brought himself back on, like, because we're talking. I mean, this literally, like, this is exactly the word that's jumping out to me, Greg, is intentionality, right? Like every day, every action, every choice, every decision has intention behind it. You talked about show me your calendar, I'll show you your priorities. And I can't tell you, I'm sure you had this as well. How many men come to you and it's like, trying to make my relationship work. And it's like, well, you take your wife out for date night? No. Well, how is your relationship going to work if you're not working on the relationship? I'm trying to get in shape. Well, are you tracking your macros? Are you going to the gym? No, then you don't really want to get into shape. I love that you talked
Whatever
about.
word you use for it, sorry, like whether it's, whether it's intentionality, whether it's purpose. I talk about mediocrity, a lot. Mediocre in a way to maximize that type of transformation. As we were talking, though, like it gets back to, is it by default or is it by design? Whatever word you want to talk about, in there. Hey, you are either doing it or you're not doing it. Whatever your subject matter is, it could be, again, it could be porn, it could be fitness, it could be overeating, it could be alcoholism, it could be, again, just poor relationships, self sabotage, imposter syndrome, whatever rabbit holes you want to go down. The lists are long. We all have our baggage. But how you address these things, I believe, again, is genuinely the same, similar, at least in a lot of, as far as breaking it down to what actions are you taking? Are you really doing the work? Are you being intentional, purposeful, authentic? Or are you just fooling yourself? Again, with either busyness or productivity, or hey, like, I say one thing and I do another. And we all know, and we know people, that are like that. They look the part, they think, but they're not really the part. That gets old fast. And you're not fooling anybody, and you sure as shit are not fooling yourself. Because it shows up. You don't quit what you say you're going to quit. You don't actually start what you say you're going to start. You don't finish what you say you're going to, start and finish. And you don't stick to what you said you were going to. That's very, very challenging for you to maximize anything in life.
Mm, absolutely. You talked about for the younger men seeking out a mentor, and oftentimes when you find these men that have the desired life that you want, they're going to talk about their failures. And for you, and sharing your story, like you kind of pointed to a couple points within your life where setbacks, you know I hate to use the word failure, but opportunities where you had to learn some growth. Same in my story, right? It's like, I look back to my 20s and 30s, like all the success, all the wins were good. But I think in reality, what it did is it taught me I can win, lose, bounce back, and win again. So I'm curious for you, do you think you would be at the point where you are without the setbacks and failures that maybe you had? And can a guy reach success, meaning, purpose, joy, happiness without having to go through some of these failures?
Great, great question. First of all, I think adversity is important. I think entitlement is one of the worst things you can do for somebody. And I say that as somebody who, again, grew up very entitled and very privileged for a while and realized that I got more out of life uh, through adversity. And, now one of the things they say is it's like, I either win or I learn. I don't lose. You either win or you learn. Because the failures and the setbacks have taught me so much. And I think one of the reasons I'm even called to serve and service so much is because sometimes we can't help the people that are closest to us. The family members who can't get over the entitlement. The ones that are the ones that we see that can't seem to get out of their own way or don't want to work through the obstacles and the shortcomings and the failures. And for me, that's taken me a long time too to put the ego aside, the ego, the narcissism, the entitlement, the feeling like, I deserve anything. And go back to more like, hey, nothing is given, it has to be earned. And yeah, you can have some success early, then you can bottom out like I did. You can go, from fit to fat and then back to fit. You can go from drunk to sober and then have a setback and have to reset and go home again. You can go from broke, to wealthy, or in a way, rich to broke to relatively rich to broke again to a little bit wealthy. You can do this over 20, 30, 40, 50. Now, I hope people can find an easier, in a way, path and not have to deal with maybe as much adversity. But you need disappointment, you need adversity, you need to overcome some things. Because I don't know anybody who, again, who has been successful where you show me the line is straight. It's a straight line from where they started to where they are now. It's a really bumpy line. It's a squiggly line. It goes up and down. It makes a bunch of circles and U's and everything else. But ultimately, it starts low and it ends high. But it's never linear. So I think it's important. If you can find that guy where everything's gone super well from start to finish, like point him out to me. But now in over 200 plus interviews, and you're at show 171. Thank you, by the way, for having me here. I would offer, if you probably went through it, I went through 200. I don't know anybody who's told me in 200 shows that it was easy and they did it without having to overcome anything. And it's exactly how they wrote it up. Can't name one of those guys. But I can tell you probably 200 different anecdotes of 200 guys that do 200 different things for a living that have incredibly similar stories of their successes, failures, setbacks, and everything else along their journey. The widget doesn't matter. Again, the outcome doesn't matter. Like that, all the similarities are in what did you go through? How did you work your way through that? Take me through that. That's why these are small and exclusive clubs to be in.
Absolutely. No, I believe wholeheartedly that the principles for success are universal. You may have to tweak them a little bit, but something worked in this particular parallel. Extract, there's going to be principles, right? Like not the actual step, but the principle behind those steps. You extract those out. That's why, I originally started the podcast, like it was all addiction talk. And I realized like, I can't do an hour-long conversation every week about addiction recovery, but I could talk every week about success, and then I could extract the principles from success and then apply them to the men that are listening that are trying to overcome pornography, and realize as our audience has grown, everybody's not listening to this that is dealing with the same struggles, but we're all working towards some level of success. So I love that so much, Greg. You said you got two high school boys, right? Soon to be out of the house.
I got one in high school. One who's a sophomore, my son Harper, and then my
Okay.
older one, Auden, is 19 and he's at CU. He's in Boulder, freshman in
Got it.
college.
Okay. So question on fathering side of things. So how old were the boys when you started this work, and how you've shown up as a father changed since you started really diving deep into understanding this midlife kind of era of our life?
It's a great question. On one hand, it's embarrassing for them a little bit, because I don't know if everybody, kid, wants their dad to be out on Instagram and interviewing and my boys get some fun from their buddies, about, hey, do you see what your dad was doing today? So I think it's a little embarrassing to them in certain areas, but I also believe, that there's some pride in the fact that look, like they do know what's important to me and they know how important they are to me and they know that it's important to me and to us to live and lead by example and that this time matters to me, that I've outlived my dad. That things like learning how to play poker even or tie a tie, or driving lessons, for them, or a college visit. My father never got to see me in college. And overall, how important these things are, not only to them, but I do think that they recognize also how important it is to me. And like what's really gratifying to me is that we're close enough that like they really, I think, genuinely care that it's important to me. They let me in a little bit more, as I tear up, about this. But the coaching was important to me when they were on teams, and then realizing when I probably shouldn't be coaching them anymore, and they needed to learn from other guys, and I should just be their dad and just, love them. Hmm? I can exercise and train every day. I don't want to force them into a gym and have them burn out early because but let them see what their mother and I are doing, and let's try to develop this organically and authentically, there because again, we're just trying to play the long game. I didn't have the long game, with my dad. And I'm really trying to play the long game, and appreciate everything. So this is new. What I'm doing now, Frank, is relatively new. It's really probably the last 3, 4 years. When I did transition out of a large company, we ended up didn't sell, and then there was COVID. So I had my kind of my exit moment. We had COVID, and my life changed a lot from going to an office every day and doing things to being able to do pretty much what we want to do when we want to do it. I wouldn't wish a global pandemic on anybody, but it wasn't a bad thing for like for us and our family in a lot of ways. As I got out of one business and now had different time, and when you strip all that stuff away, you get to kind of choose and decide what you want back. So we've really given that, back to your word, a lot of intentional thought. You know, the conversations I didn't have: drugs, alcohol, pornography, gambling, and we are far from perfect. Truth, trust. What is an honest relation like? Never be what you should never be afraid to talk to me, talk to your about. Where the line is. Also, like, we have like a no jackpot rule. Like, hey, like, what's a jackpot? It's like, hey, no DUIs, no naked pictures from girls. We start going to all the things that are jackpot that we can't get you out of. You can't get yourself out of in today's world and society. What does that look like? How much, where's the line on fun? What you can, and how to be responsible about that. And there's two roles in there. And I talk to guys a lot about this too. I think being a dad is easy, being a father is hard. The
Explain
dad's all
that.
the fun shit.
Explain that,
The
please.
dad's all the fun stuff. Let's go for burgers, let's have fun, let's share the first even beer together, like the easy fun stuff. Let's go to the game, let's do all this. Being a father is really hard. The grades, the discipline, on the curfew, the what do we know more? You just got to look around the bend and see what's out there. It's not my job to be your friend, it's my job to be your father. The friend is a bonus. And believe me, I fucking want it. Okay? Like, I want us to be friends. I want us to be close. I want you to say the same way that I do that you are my best friend by choice. But being your father's the job. That's the responsibility. That's the obligation. That you do better than me earlier and for longer. So there's a pretty big distinction there in that.
I love that, man. I love when you're talking about the fitness and how it's like you can train every day, but it's like to tell them they need to go do this. I don't have children yet, Greg. It's what I think and pray and hope for more than anything at this point in my life. At 39, having accomplished, many of the things that I have, success in bodybuilding, business, financial, whatever the case may be. It's like the last box left for big Frank Rich to check is the one that includes family and legacy. So I love hearing that. And it's a conversation I have regularly. And I think one of the things that always jumps out to me is most things are transferred to kids are caught, not taught. Like they're going to pick up a lot more from watching and modeling the behaviors and the habits and routines of the parents versus what they're told to do. So I love that principle around the training and obviously what you and your wife are doing. I saw you guys on your Instagram. You guys are both in incredible shape at your age, truly inspiring there. I had this question that, it's not going to fit into the conversation we've been having, but I would almost feel like I'm doing a disservice if I don't bring it up because it's like screaming at me right now. I gotta bring this up. I may be completely off here, Greg, but I'm going to assume that maybe there's a guy listening to this right now. Maybe there's guys that comes into your world, into your program, that his reason behind why he's at a midlife crisis is around his wife. His wife has stopped loving him. His wife has stopped wanting to have sex with him, whatever the case may be, right? It's like, none of this is because of me. It's because of what she's done to me. What do you say to that, man?
Mm. It's a great question. All your questions have been great, and I love where you're taking this because, again, I think it's all connected. So I don't think any of these things come out of left field. Like, I had this the other way with you asking you questions, like things were popping into my head, and I'm like, where totally is the connection? But it's like action reaction. Something makes you think of something. I write in my book that we got to start with ourselves. We got to really get real. We got to get raw. We got to get naked. We got to take that hard, long look in the mirror, and really be honest about what's looking right back at us. Every mistake, everything in my life, once I learned to own it, again, everything got better. Once I stopped blaming and trying to put any kind of onus of responsibility on anybody else, my wife included, again, things improved. Now, I'm not telling you that every guy makes the right choice with the woman that he marries. And I'm not telling you that I'm against divorce either. Mhm. Because I'm pro happiness and contentment and fulfillment and living a long happy life. And unfortunately, some people are not for other people, and they make, again, poor choices early, and they might be better off both individual. However, I do also believe that many, and statistically speaking too, have chosen to take the easy way out, which is not work on their relationship, not take that look in the mirror, think that it's somebody else's fault, their spouse, in either direction, and not really their own. You go back to one of the things you said earlier. Are you actually dating your wife? Mhm. Are you doing the things in marriage that you did to court her and get in the first place? Are we taking one another for granted? Are we letting ourselves go? I think that self-care is not selfish. I think it's one of the most selfless things we can do. I think a lot of guys are going to lose themselves into these other, and they become very resentful. Reason I'm not exercising is because I'm working so hard. The reason, I'm like this is because I'm doing everything for everybody else, my wife and my kid and everybody, and then they get resentful. I'm okay with this. Put yourself first. You want to fix your marriage? Fix yourself first. Put yourself first. Reduce stress, reduce anxiety, get better sleep, get yourself in better shape, cut down on the drinking, okay? Figure out what your priorities are, work on yourself, and I'm telling you, the relationship will also get better. Be the guy she wants you to be the guy she married. Your relationship's invariably, you start doing all of those things and it's still, again, not working. We may have to have another conversation. Now, marriage is hard. Relationships are hard, extremely. We're 25 years together, 22 married. You talk about being 39 and wanting children, in your life. And I'd say one of the worst things that you can do is make a mistake and have children with the wrong person. That exists in my family. That exists with a ton of the guys that I work with and see, and that I'm around. So take as long, I was like, take as long as you need. Again, you'll live to 100 the way you're going. And plenty of time, plenty of energy. Like,
That's the aim, brother. And to hear you say earlier, man, not to cut you here, but like the 37 is midlife. I'm like, dude, I'm 39, man, and I'm literally feel like I'm just getting started. Like,
just
bring
funny.
40 because I'm looking forward to it. Because at 40, I didn't know the shit I knew at 39. At 41, I'm gonna have skill sets and abilities I didn't have at 40. At 42, I'm gonna be a better version than I was at 41. By 50, I'm gonna be better than I was at 49, 48, 47, 46, and on down the road. And I think that becomes my frame of reference, though, right?
Yes. Now they're doing this really cool stuff. Like, you have your outer age and your inner age and everything. It's like you may be biologically 39, but your inner age, you're probably like 30, like just because of the shape you keep yourself in and the energy level and the things that you're doing out there. So we get back to, again, better choices. To really answer your question directly, get back to, again, make better choices. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you really doing the work? Are you putting the effort into the relationships, the things that matter? Mhm. Are you putting yourself first, working yourself back? Because that's how you show up better for your spouse. That's how you show up better for your kids. These things are important. It's the oxygen mask analogy again, too. In the event of an emergency, the oxygen masks drop down. What do? Put yours on first before you help the person next to you. Okay. That's the way this personal operating system and this life design works too. Trust me, I was not a very good partner, husband, or man. When I was overweight, drinking too much, and putting everything else first except besides myself. Better one or better two. Not drinking, sleeping more, in better shape, more attentive, more alert, more energy, and more committed to the people that I love and who I want to love me. Which one sounds better? Mhm. Which guy do you want to have dinner with? Because even if I took you, it's like the other guy, like, I don't want to be with you anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
How
He's
many
not
people have
present.
budgeted
He's
places and
in
like,
his
I'll pick up
phone.
the tab and I'll do all this. And you're like, I don't really give a fuck what you do. I just don't want to be there. Like, like you could be on the nicest yacht in the nicest place and the nice way, and somebody else is picking up all the tab. And you could be flat out miserable if you're with the wrong person and you don't like yourself.
God, man, I have, dude. It's making me think of this friend, man. As you're sharing that story, like I have this buddy. He's that guy, man. He's the ultimate, like, just wants to make sure that everybody is taken care of, providing incredible integrity and just a provider, incredibly successful, like exited from a multi 9-figure exit earlier this year. We were at a dinner before a suite. Like, we had a suite at a Bucks game. We all went out to dinner after. Big long table, probably like 12, 15 guys, all just chopping it up. Everybody shut down work earlier the day. He's sitting there in the corner the entire time, plugging away. at his laptop. Bill comes, he picks up the bill. He's like, I got it, guys. Didn't say a word. Sat in the suite at the game, plugged away at his computer, nonstop. I take care of everything, guys. I got it. It's like, dude, we didn't get, like, I don't care. Like, we could all afford to be here. We don't need you to take care of it because you make way more money. Here's the thing, man, is he did exit his company, but in the process of doing, he also lost his family. Two beautiful girls, wife gone out the door. And it's like, what's the measure of success there, right? And I think that's kind of a consistent thing that we're just talking
Well, I
about
think
here.
that is, look, everybody's wired differently. Now, here's the thing. If you're really fueled by the passion for the work and what you do and everything else, I'm not going to knock that. That's all good for you, you know? Like we had some guys that, and even in in my experience, it's like, look, we get acquired, you know, and you hand a bunch of guys a bunch of money and whatever the number is. I'm not saying this, you know, you hand some guys $100 million and they go, okay, they tighten the tie even tighter. They go, we're 900 million away from a billion. Let's go. You know, you hand somebody else like, you know, a couple of bucks and they're like, thank you, Seattle. Good night. And they walk off stage like, I'm happy to live off the royalties of this song for the rest of everybody's wired a little bit differently. Now, if that really fills his tank and fuels him, and that's really great, okay. But at the same time, as you mentioned, everything comes at a cost. Mhm. Now, is the cost too high? And where is that line for everybody? If it comes at a cost of your spouse or your children or anything else, is that cost too high for you? We all know guys that are going to die at their desk, unfortunately. Mhm. And no matter what, we can't seem to change them, and a lot of them, you know, don't want to. We know other guys who are great husbands, great fathers. They really could. They need to dial it up in the provider area, you know, a little bit. You know, you're in great shape, whatever, but you know what? Like you're gonna be 40 and 50 and you're gonna want some more runway and some other things. Again, it's like, what are you wired? What do you gravitate towards? And how do you find? I don't love the word balance, but I love the word harmony. How do we find harmony in
Well,
these areas?
balance within the vivid vision, right? You know, I know guys that their vision is to die at their desk. Like that's the life that they believe that they were put here to live. Hats off to you, man. But they're not the ones that are out there that are talking about the family and the legacy and all these. They're talking
Go
about the
back,
legacy they're
rule
going to leave
number
behind.
three, aggregate,
But
curate, eliminate. I'm sure there's
yeah,
some things I can learn from you. There's some things I'm going to curate down that are going to, and there's a bunch of shit I'm going to eliminate. Okay. But there's
absolutely, yeah.
but there's some characteristics and and there's some things that we can take from anybody and everything out there. The question is, what works for you? What works for your operating system? And can you, okay, remain true to that? Because that's really what success looks like. It's yours, you own it, it's authentic, it's true to you, and you can live it. So it's no surprise that you're not walking down the street smoking a cigarette. Okay? Doesn't fit in your, it would be a surprise if you were doing that. It doesn't fit in your operating system, the way you live. Mhm. Seeing you like, if I was out waiting in bars, and it would, but that doesn't look like that fits for him. Mhm. But when you go out and you do what you do day in and day out, that's who you are. That I mean, that's what's expected. But it's also the kind of people that gravitate towards you and the kind of people that you gravitate towards. Like I had a client who taught me this too, and I thought it was great. So I stole it from him. Okay. He goes, you get the client you deserve. It's like, wow, Don, like that's like really, really good. And he said, well, not only do you get the client you deserve, son, you get the spouse you deserve, you get the partner you deserve, you get the, you know, you get everything that you deserve. What are you putting off? What are you putting out? What are you getting back? What's your vibe? What's your aura? What's your persona? What's really true?
It's a true statement of ownership. You get everything that you deserve. True statement of ownership right there. I
Yeah.
love that.
Listen, when I had clients, okay, that required me taking them out drinking at night or playing golf or driving out to the ship channel to ensure their ball bearing company and everything else, and none of it, like, got the client idea. I wasn't interested in their business, interested in me. And you know what ended up happening? I ended up getting fired by a bunch of them. I fired and tired. One, because I couldn't keep up and didn't want to do all that stuff. I was tired trying to be something I wasn't all night and all day, and then get up and try to train and do everything. You know, so you're tired. Then ultimately you get fired because they're like, they got some other guy that actually really enjoys doing all that. They take it down. So you lose both. When I started to work with people that did the same things and were interested in similar things that I was, hey, let's meet for a walk. Let's meet for a workout. Or then let's go here for breakfast. Like all of a sudden things got better. It wasn't a surprise to them when I was like, hey, listen, can we do this at 11 because I'm training from 9 to 10? Like, yeah, of course. Oh, great. I'll train then too. You know, like things make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
And things also become a little bit easier that way.
Great, man. Bring that home here in a little bit. Last few questions. You touched on the 6 F's here a little bit, very similar to the 5S that I talk about. You know, I talk about faith, fitness, finance, family, and freedom. Yours are a little bit different. We have the family, fitness, finance, fun, fashion, and food. Um, the one I have, I think the biggest question around is fashion. Why did you feel that was? I mean, I look at your page, man. Like you got swag, dude. The style, the hats, you got the beads on the wrist, man. The different jackets. Like you definitely like you got the swag, man. And respect. Just curious why that's
Yeah.
like that's an important pinnacle for men, though, right? Just talk
Yeah,
talk about.
when I describe these things, and for whatever, like F's have seemed to become like also kind of like a thing, and you try to fit them all in there because it has a nice ring to it, and so does yours. For one thing, I do put them in the same order. So when I describe them, I put them in the same order each and every time. So it is, family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, and fun. And the reason I go in this order to answer is because, again, to me, family always comes first. That's my North Star. That's my number one priority. Fitness really is health. It's not just about being jacked or anything else. It really is about overall health. In there, whatever that looks like to you. A lot of white space between being unhealthy and healthy. Fitness really is about health and what that looks like to you. Finance, we're just talking, money's a tool, as we talked about. How much you need to do the things you want to do, when you want to do them, with the people you want to do them for as long as you can do them. That's all it is. That's okay. How do we quantify that? Food is nutrition, really just what you put in your body. I live by the 80-20 rule. As we go, 80% of the time I'm pretty clean. 20% of the time I clean up whatever my kids leave over or whatever. I don't count macros anymore or calories or anything like that because I'm not training for anything like that. At this point at 50, I can go on feel, the mirror, certain other things in there, get my blood work done, all that. But that's really about nutrition. When you get into the fashion, as you were talking about, where the way I looked at this was really about confidence. It was about confidence, authenticity, more about personal brand and style than it is about being on the cover of GQ or Esquire or trying to, spend a lot of money and show off on your fashion or your style. No, it's really about what makes you feel comfortable. What do you like to wear? For some guys, that's like, hey, let me get a uniform. I don't even want to think about this. Like I have a buddy, he speaks like 60 times a year, he's an incredible author and speaker. Boom, every time you see him, black jeans, black shirt, like same. It's like Johnny Cash. The guy looks amazing. Okay. But he doesn't even have to think about it anymore. But again, what's authentic to you? You know, I have this slide that I put up sometimes. It's me in my old corporate picture, and I'm wearing the suit, and next to and look, I have nothing against the suit. Like if you're into that thing, like I never felt powerful and comfortable in a suit. I did it for a long time. That was the uniform of what I did. But I never took ownership of it. I never felt great. I felt like I was an imposter, like in that. I'm not a businessman. I'm like a let's shoot the shit kind of guy, like with you. And then the picture next to it is like I'm in a t-shirt, ripped jeans, beanie on or whatever. And it's like this guy over here, like, is miserable. I never liked that. That wasn't really me. This guy over here is like really happy. So that's kind of what I mean by fashion and in the style. It's like whatever gives you confidence, whatever makes you feel like you, like own that. But I do think it's important for men. We all have a personal brand right now, whether you think you're in sales or not, whether you're on social or not, how you perceive yourself and how you want to be perceived. So I want to nail your question like on it's like, look, I feel better when I go to the gym in a really good outfit, quite frankly. I feel stronger. Like when I'm head to toe in Roan, and it's a black tank top and black shirt and it fits well and it feels good, I'm going to fucking lift better that day. I'm motivated to be there. Then if I'm wearing like my old ripped, gross college shirt and baggy sweats or whatever, take some pride in this. Doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be expensive, but have it fit well. Have it really be you. Have certain things for certain location, have for certain, events and experiences in the ways that you perceive yourself and the way that you want to be perceived. So that's kind of like how I see. It's a very long answer to your question going through this, but that's kind of how I see the style and the fashion, side of things. I think it matters. I think it's all connected.
No, it was great, man. I that one really stood out to me the most, right? Because you've seen it, man. I got the F's, other people got P's or Q's or B's, and it's like there's consistency behind it. Faith is going to be in a lot of people. Fitness, if it's not in somebody's pillars, like I'm not even interested in what they're talking about. It's like you're not prioritizing fitness in your life. I want nothing to do with it. You always talk
Well, I
about
think faith
finance
is
and
an
money.
amazing one, and it's there for me too. I, in a way, like consider faith on the family side. Are we spiritual? Are we faithful? Okay, are we? I mean, we happen to be. Look, I grew up. a very reformed Jewish kid on the North Shore of Long Island. And my wife grew up going to Catholic school, in Houston, Texas. Again, if you would have told me that this would have worked out, 20, I would have said bet the under. And that's so when you think about faith, I think a lot about spirituality. I think we think about religion and identity in different ways, but we go back to harmony. Again, what's our operating system? What are our beliefs overall? So I'm a big proponent of faith, whatever that looks like for people too.
Yeah. No, I loved your response on the fashion and everybody having a personal brand, man. I think it's an important conversation that isn't had enough with men. Your personal brand isn't your favorite sports team. Your personal brand isn't Tom Brady. Like, you reach a certain point, men, like start representing yourself and stop representing other men in what you wear. And I think that's a belief that I hold. I don't know if you hold the same thing, but I loved it, man.
Well,
It's
I
have
do. I mean,
confidence,
I don't want to walk
display
around
the
with another guy's name in the back. Like I think a lot of that stuff is really cool, like the memorabilia and guys that I look at and I admire and everything. But like, I'm just really like not a guy who's gonna slap another guy's name in the back of my like on a jersey and like go out and do that. I support a lot of teams, a lot of guys that are out there. Like I do want to buy that Tom Brady football. He went to Michigan. I went to love that guy, quintessential midlife male. I do like all of that stuff, but I think like on our own identity, like we get to own.
Yeah. Yeah. Most men are just, or the vast majority of them are just, they're wearing the standard midlife crisis, uniform, the white New Balance with the socks, the jean shorts tucked in polo and a trucker's hat, maybe, or, comb over, whatever.
I
So
think what's interesting about it, and we're gonna end on this is, again, like intentional. I'll go back to keep using your word. Are you again intentional about like what you put on your body, what you put in your body, all of those things? We've also seen a lot of guys. Look, you could just throw money at the problem too, and we've seen this. Look, you got a really expensive suit on, you got to this, but you don't look good. Like you don't have a good tailor, that's for sure. You're not in good shape. Like all of these things again, they go together. How do you want to be perceived? And every one of these things here's the other, can be learned. And there's somebody out there that can help you with it. You do what you do and you help men with very specific stuff. Like I've had guys that specialize in fashion and style for men on the podcast. I had Tom Brady stylist Andrew White's on. Guy taught me a ton of stuff out there. He has a club. You can join it for like a couple $100, and like they give you. So anything you're interested in, again, like you can learn, you can improve, you can get better at. Don't think any of this stuff is outside your reach. It's not.
yeah, we got a stylist coming on in a few weeks as well. So it's kind of it's kind of top of mind as I've been preparing for having him on as well. So it's a great place to end here today, Greg. Obviously, I want to point people in your direction. Obviously, check out the podcast, connect you on IG if they want to check out your book, coaching, whatever. So tell everybody where they can find you, where you're hanging out socially, and then we'll end it with our final question, Greg.
Yeah, appreciate it very much. I'm not hard to find. So you can go over to midlifemale.com and everything is over there. And I actually just launched a website, gregscheinman.com, which is really more about my speaking and workshops and things that are going on. But again, midlifemale.com, at Greg Scheinman on Instagram. I'm over on LinkedIn quite a bit because that's where a lot of the midlife men, are hanging out in that career and personal, kind of stuff. But yeah, you can reach me, email me through there, greg at midlifemail.com. I'm not hard to find, like you.
Awesome. Love that, brother. We'll get all that plugged down in the show notes for you guys. Final question, Greg. Obviously, the title of the show is called The Superhuman Life. For me, I think living a superhuman life is really about a belief system. It's how you show up daily and that intentionality piece, right? I do believe that we were put here for a purpose. So there's a calling on each one of our lives. I believe you're walking in your calling right now, but knowing that you're here for a purpose isn't enough. We must be very intentional in our development, in our growth, and how we bring that purpose to the service of others. So that's how I define living a superhuman life, but I like to end it with the guest take. So Mr. Greg Scheinman, as we end today's conversation, how would you define living a superhuman life?
Such a good question. I'm going to take this from my friend, a guy named Billy Mann. And Billy is a Grammy-winning songwriter, producer. He works with Pink and John Legend. Amazing. And Billy dropped this gem on me, and I have adopted it. And we were talking about music and all of the highlights again in success about the hit song. And he goes, it's not about the hit song. It's about the hit life. And I was like, oh, so much better. Mhm. So I started to own that. And I started looking at, okay, it's not about the individual hit. It's not about the little success. It's about, again, what does the hit life really look like? And I think about it as midlife and success now for me, and I hope for everyone, isn't so much about reinventing yourself as it is about releasing yourself to be who you truly are. And that to me is what a superhuman life and what success really looks like.
God, I love that, Greg. It blows me away, man. The 171 episodes in, when we get an answer that is truly unique. I love the releasing yourself, and I love the take, man. Like nobody wants to be a Milli Vanilli in this life. We don't want the one hit. We don't want the one hit wonder, guys. Greg, this has been an absolute honor, man. You are a true gift. Massive fan of the work that you're doing out there. Much, much needed. So you got a fan supporter here. You got a fan in the show audience, guys. Make sure to connect with Greg. If you got value out of this show, we ask every single week, right? Guys, you can support us in one of two ways. First off, if you're consuming these podcasts and you haven't done so yet, take the 2 seconds, head over to Apple, Spotify, wherever you're consuming, and leave us a 5-star rating and written review. It really drives the growth of this show. That's kind of the currency for the algorithm out there, guys. But more importantly, maybe there's a guy that's going through some of these struggles. Maybe he's entering into that midlife crisis stage and he needs this conversation. Guys, do us the favor, but do them the blessing by sharing today's conversation with them. But for Greg Scheinman, Frank Rich, your host here at Superhuman Life, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.